Hey, movie lovers. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Leia.
And Leia, what do you think about this? So I keep saying movie lovers, right?
Yeah.
Every single episode, every single time. But what I was thinking,
Uh-oh.
bear with me for just a minute.
We know what happens when you think.
Yeah, okay. So, let's do this.
Okay.
What do you think? I came up with a few ideas. I'm going to run them past you.
Okay.
If you don't like them, it's fine.
All right, give me a drive-by.
Okay. What about welcome lobbyists?
I don't know if I like that.
Don't like that one?
No.
Sounds a little too political.
It does.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
Because lobbyists they lobby politicians. Okay, yeah.
Sounds stuffy.
All right. Shove that one to the side. Okay, check out this one, though.
Okay.
So, you know how you and I, maybe not other people, but you and I refer to our show sometimes in abbreviation as MTL, right? Yep. MTL, if you throw a few vowels, throw a few vowels in there.
Usually you do with words, yes.
Right, yeah. 3 consonants in a row don't much make a word.
Yep.
Throw a few vowels in there and you get metal. So what if I say, welcome metalheads?
It sounds like we're at a rock concert.
And is that bad?
Well, we're not.
Oh, okay.
So I like your out of the box type of thinking,
right?
And I'm really proud of you for coming up with some new things to call people.
Spice it up a little bit.
Just spice it up, but I think we should just stick with movie lovers.
Okay, we'll stick with that for now.
Yeah, because we are all movie lovers.
We are, generally.
Yeah.
Unless people wander in here on accident.
Well, they're welcome.
Yeah, sure, why not?
It's cold outside.
It's coldish season.
It is, yeah.
So, yeah, people are welcome inside. And speaking of people being welcome here, come on inside, everybody. We've got some tasty yum-yums, some quenching sip-sips, and some comfy sit-sits.
You and your word math, man.
I'm trying new stuff.
Yeah.
It's not really working, though, is it?
It's cute.
Okay, well, we'll go with cute for now, and we'll circle back around.
All right.
Speaking of circles, we've got a movie today that features a lot of circles.
We do.
But I do want to mention our episode today, and this title in particular, deal a lot with suicide and someone throwing themselves through windows, and it's not taken terribly seriously in the film. So if you may be sensitive to that, we completely understand. Feel free to skip this movie and this episode. Come back and see us next week, and we will be covering something entirely different, probably much more safe for most general listening. But if you are okay with that, or you enjoy The Hudsucker Proxy as a movie, stay with us and enjoy it. Just before we get to our circles, we kind of accidentally made a theme this month.
Oh, did we now?
We did. And it's not really apparent from the start. It actually just kind of hit me the other day when I was kind of thinking.
Oh boy, here we go with that thinking again.
I know, I should really just stop for a whole week. So we've done movies in December. We started with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Then we had Batman Returns, Die Hard, and now Hudsucker Proxy.
Yes.
So Hudsucker Proxy, for people who've seen the movie, it's pretty obvious that there are people that interact with windows in a very particular way.
Yeah, in a very particular way, yes. So, not in a good way.
Not in a good way. And if you have seen Die Hard, after we've talked about it, hopefully you who may not have seen it have gone back and checked it out. Or if you have seen Die Hard, which I imagine most people have, you'll know that there is a dead terrorist that gets thrown through a window. So that's, to a lesser extent,
also interacting with a window.
Yeah, and Hans Gruber ends up through a window.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I'm getting a window theme so far.
A window theme. Now let's look at Batman Returns. Can you think of somebody in Batman Returns who gets thrown through a window?
Oh, yeah. Catwoman.
Yes, of course, Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
Now, think real hard about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Okay.
Because you may not remember, because it's a very minor point.
And my memory.
Right.
It's terrible.
A character in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang named Harmony Lane.
Yeah. Okay, well, I remember that.
When we are first introduced to her, she's introduced as a woman who appears on the news because there was a drunken home invader who ended up in her apartment on accident. And of course, she attacked the home invader and accidentally pushed him through. I guess technically she pushes him off of her balcony.
Okay.
But
So maybe it's not a window theme. Maybe it's a ground theme.
It is a ground
people meeting
theme.
the ground.
People meeting the ground very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Huh.
So I'm going to really make a big leap here, and I'm going to call it defenestration-sember or defenescember.
Defenescember. Okay. What does defenestration mean?
Defenestration, when someone gets thrown out a window, they are defenestrated.
Okay. Well, little did you know.
Uh-oh.
I actually planned all of this all along.
Did you know?
All along.
Okay.
Yep. I was just waiting for you to figure it out. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Sometimes I pick up on these really subtle hints.
There's no prize, but you get a good stiff pat on the back. Way to go. And I'm amazing.
Well, you are amazing.
I came up with all of that myself.
I'm very, very proud of you.
Okay.
You've done very well. I appreciate your...
I wish I had come up with all that, though. That's amazing.
I appreciate your very accidentally subtle theme. But let's get back to our circle. So, Leia, what movie are we talking about this week? I think we've already mentioned it.
Hudsucker Proxy, baby.
Plexiglass. Had it installed last week.
Such an underrated film.
It is very underrated.
It's very entertaining.
It's very darkly funny.
Mm-hmm.
It is very different in style than a lot of other movies, but that's
kind of what makes it so interesting, though.
Yeah, it's got its own kind of appeal that way. Yeah. Well, let's get people who may not have seen this movie, which in this instance may have been quite a few people.
I think so, yeah.
Let's take a minute to cover a little bit of plot just to get them into it.
Just a taste. Little sip-sip.
Little sip-sip. And maybe that'll send them out to watch this movie.
Okay. Sounds
all right,
good.
let's give it a shot.
It's 1958. Anyway, for a few more minutes it is. Come midnight, it's going to be 1959.
We soar through a darkened sky over a metropolis while snow flutters by, and a mysterious narrator introduces us to our current place and time, centering on a particularly towering building, much taller than the rest, with a large, circular, silently glowing clock.
Circular, huh?
Hudsucker Industries. The future is now. Now, indeed. A window opens and a man walks out of it onto a ledge. Norville Barnes is the man's name, a character played by Tim Robbins.
Barnes is the name on every American lip. Norville Barnes.
We meet him only briefly when our narrator shunts us to the past. We meet Norville again. This time, he's on the street, in the daylight.
Ooh.
Very different place and time. He stands in front of a job board as slats flip and rotate quickly, displaying titles and required experience.
I've been there.
Right?
Yeah.
Hate that in the job search. Right? Can't get the job if you don't got the experience. Can't get the experience if you don't got the job.
Yep. Preach.
Disheartened, our protagonist saunters sadly down the street. In contrast, we see an opulent and homogeneous boardroom where a corporate stooge is presenting numbers and statistics in front of a trio of large glass windows, foreshadowing,
bum, bum, bum,
proclaiming,
"We're making so much money in sub-franchising, it isn't even funny."
To the board of rich old white men. At the head of the table, a very bored-looking rich old white man sits in a chair, smiling bemusedly, but obviously preoccupied with other thoughts. This is Wearing Hudsucker.
Wearing Hudsucker never did anything the easy way.
Head of the Hudsucker Corporation.
The Hudsucker Corporation.
The very same. Now, once again, we see Norville, this time in a dark, dreary cafe, resignedly finishing a cup of coffee, after giving up his search through a newspaper help wanted section. A member of the waitstaff clears Norville's dirty mug, and a coffee-stained ring is encircling the one and only job listing that proclaims no experience necessary.
Encircling, huh?
Encircling. But Norville doesn't notice the notice and walks away. Mr. Hudsucker is still bored, while the corporate stooge rambles on and on about how business is good, better than ever.
We're loaded.
It's dull. It's boring. But the foggy New York skyline is vast and enshrouded in gray. It's also mysterious, exciting even.
Inviting.
Inviting, indeed. Sometimes that call is a little too inviting. But fate is not finished with Mr. Hudsucker or our friend Norville. The very same newspaper the once optimistic Norville had been reading has blown into the street, carried upon a breeze of destiny, finding the man who needs it most. The future is now, it boldly proclaims. Start building yours at Hudsucker Industries. It beckons.
Low pay, long hours.
It warns.
No experience necessary.
It most importantly boasts. Speaking of boasting, the meeting drones on.
We have set a new record in sales, a new record in gross, a new record in pre-tax earnings.
Hudsucker stares out into the distance and slowly winds his pocket watch. With one large puff on a cigar, slowly, steadily, the man in charge stands atop the table, then charges himself down the runway-like length and launches himself through the window.
You can hear his feet running across the table.
Right? Boom, 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 boom. While Hudsucker is on his way out, Norville is on his way in. Another circle.
A circle.
Of sorts is completed.
Yeah.
One out, one in. Notice is given to the board members that due to legal circumstances,
That Waring stock and control of the company will be made available to the public January 1st.
Waring's controlling interest stock, that is. Panic erupts in the room as the revelation
That any slob in a smelly t-shirt will be able to buy Hudsucker stock.
gross, ew, sends shivers down the board's collective spines, if they had any. Another scheme is hatched by a stoic businessman, Sidney Musburger. Played by Paul Newman.
Question now is whether we're going to let John Q. Public just waltz in here and buy our company.
Nefariously, the board decides to install
A puppet. A proxy.
A pawn.
to be the new CEO. Someone the public would lose complete faith in and cause the current incredible stock price to plummet, just like Waring did, crashing the price and allowing the board to buy all units and retain control in the company before John Q. Public can get their dirty, filthy hands on it. 1 month is their deadline. Overwhelmed with orientation, Norville walks through a loud, boisterous basement mailroom. Everything stops as a blue letter takes all the attention.
A blue letter!
A blue letter!
Jesus, Joseph and Mary, is that a blue letter?
Causing all employees to scatter like cockroaches from the light. A naive Norville is saddled with the unenviable task of delivering this letter of dire importance to the top. Norville is literally and figuratively propelled to the top of the company as he stands in front of Musburger and optimistically presents his personal invention, drawn in detail upon a napkin, his grand new idea, a circle.
You know, for kids.
You know, for kids.
You know. Slapstick hijinks ensue, a contract is burned in a burning trash can, the contract is thrown out a window to the street below. The wind of fate picks up again and flits the remaining contract documents, like Waring Hudsucker, out the window, followed quite soon after by Musburger, who attempts to catch them, as Norville catches him. But now, ingenuity strikes Sidney, for he has found his proxy.
Some jerk we can really push around.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sidney makes Norville the new man.
I got what you doing there. Yeah.
Paul Newman?
Paul Newman. Yeah,
Right?
I got it.
Sidney makes Norville the new man in charge. Now that we have navigated Norville to his lofty position carried so aloft by the expedient elevator, let's make our way back to the mezzanine, 44 floors down,
45, counting the mezzanine.
and leave Norville to laugh his way to the top and enjoy his nearly new year. So Leia, now that we've figured out what's happening in the world of Norville and Musburger, Hudsucker Industries,
We started to figure it out.
Yeah. What are we going to cover next?
I think we should talk about the directors because they are instrumental in creating this world that we
That is true.
are talking about here.
They are a pair who had more faith in this project than anybody else.
Yeah. The famous two-headed director.
That's right.
And who are we talking about?
We are talking about the Coen Brothers.
Yeah, Joel and Ethan Coen.
Hmm.
So Joel and Ethan Coen, they both direct and write and edit.
Yeah.
Early on, they didn't do all of them. They they did all of them, but they like split the duties up and things like that. But they would always come in as a director.
Right.
But when they would edit under a different name.
Which was?
They would edit under Roderick Janes.
Uh-huh.
So anytime you saw Roderick Janes, it was actually Ethan and Joel under the name Roderick Janes,
Right.
but they're the editors.
They're doing the work.
Yeah. So they both wrote, they both directed. They both wrote it. Joel usually directed, Ethan produced, and then both edited under the same name.
Right. Yeah. That's a creative way of doing things.
Mhm. They started with Barton Fink. I mean, they didn't start with Barton Fink.
Right. It wasn't their first movie.
That
but
wasn't their first movie, but that was their first kind of more well-known movie.
They're larger.
What was their first movie?
Their first movie happened to be Blood Simple.
Blood Simple. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then this movie came out after Barton Fink.
Yes.
And then the one we all are really familiar with is Fargo.
Fargo.
That's the one that they're most well known for, I think, is Fargo. And Fargo, they also did The Big Lebowski.
Right, of course.
Fargo and The Big Lebowski are actually both in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress.
Another mention there, of course.
As being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So,
right. Fantastic.
That's two great accomplishments under your belt.
Yeah. That mention came up far faster in this episode than I was expecting.
Right?
And for two movies.
Yeah. And so, of course, they also did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Bad Santa, No Country for Old Men, who could forget that one?
Of course.
Burn After Reading, True Grit. And then I think most recently The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Right. And one that I'd like to mention, lesser known.
Yes.
But one that I really enjoy, The Man Who Wasn't There.
Mm-hmm. Who was the star of that one?
Billy Bob
Thornton, right.
All black and white, kind of noir-y, murder mystery-ish. I mean, not really a mystery so much, but a noir-styled story.
Yeah. They actually co-wrote this with Sam Raimi.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, he's well known for Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. He's super good friends with Bruce Campbell.
Right, of course he is.
Also in this film.
Also makes not just a little more than a cameo.
Yeah, he's
he was
a little
in
more than a
few different
cameo.
scenes.
Yeah, he was in a few. He is actually also in the movie since he does like to pop up in his movies. Mm-hmm. Any movie he's involved in, he likes to be a part of it, even if it's a small
action.
Yeah, even if it's a small bit.
What did he do in this one? Because I don't remember seeing him.
You didn't. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Uh-huh.
So he's there's a sequence where they're talking about the circle and trying to figure out what to name it.
The new invention.
The new invention that he was coming out with. And so he was one of the Hudsucker brainstormers. So you don't see his face, but you see his silhouette and you hear his voice.
Yeah. Where they're all like the Hudsucker hoop.
And, going back and forth and trying to come up with these crazy ideas for
whatever
what
this
they're gonna
new
call it.
Norville invention is called.
Yep.
Oh, well, that's a fun little nod to.
I always like
Mr.
when he's
Raimi.
in a movie because I like to figure out where he is in the movie.
It's like
an Easter egg.
Where's Raimi?
Yeah, where's Raimi? Exactly. This one I wouldn't have been able to grab it unless I knew his voice really well, and I don't know his voice very well.
No, I'm not super familiar with his voice, but it's notable enough where once you know that he's in a movie, you can generally at least listen for it. Yeah. Now, I do also want to, just the only real thing I want to mention about the Coen Brothers is that they are not so big on improv.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is surprising.
They don't necessarily, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, I've never been on one of their sets.
No.
But
I'm shocked.
From what I understand, they don't necessarily stop people from improving their lines, but when someone does go improv, they usually, okay, that was great, but can you do it like we wrote it on the script? So most of the films turn out pretty well
how they scripted
it.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if they put in people who are good at improv and they use that occasionally.
Maybe.
But maybe people who aren't so good at it, they're like, all right, that was great, but
great. Let's
do it again.
Let's scripty this boy.
Yeah. So should we move on to talking about some of the actors in the film?
Yes, let's do.
Let's start with Tim Robbins, who plays Norville Barnes.
Sure, the man who was up at the top.
The very tippity top.
And not to mention, crazy friggin' tall.
Yeah. How tall is he?
6'4" even.
Yeah, that's a tall man.
Yeah, he towered over pretty much everybody in this movie. When in the few scenes where you saw him in an elevator, he was the man in the elevator.
He was the tall guy in the elevator. I mean, maybe not shamefully admit this, but I do think I have a little crush on him.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I know.
Leia's crushes.
I've always had a crush on him.
The new segment, Leia's crush.
No, it's not a new segment. We're not going to, no.
No? Okay.
But I will make sure to mention when I have a crush on a
that's fair.
star. I will.
Fair. Not a regularly occurring segment.
No.
All right. Well, Tim Robbins then, Mr. Tall Guy. One thing that I thought was kind of neat about Tim, like I know him.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was neat about Tim Robbins is that he founded a theater group called the Actors Gang Theater Group.
Mm-hmm.
which their whole thing was kind of, they were an avant-garde style theater troupe, and they would play with kind of radical political observations, because Tim Robbins is also, aside from acting, very well known for being very politically active.
Yeah.
So it seems very fitting he would make a theater group that would be that would be their specialty.
Yeah. I read a few articles that had made very quick mention of Tim Robbins actually discovering Jack Black through his company.
Okay.
I don't know how much validity there is to it, but it was mentioned a couple times in a couple different articles.
All right.
Fairly certain he'd have done fine on his own, but
sure, I bet he would have.
Who would take a no from getting help from Tim Robbins?
Yeah, no, I'd be okay with that.
Right? You want to help me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Why not, dude? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah. His parents are two actually fairly well-known people. His father, Gil Robbins, was a former The Highwaymen singer.
Oh, right. I thought the name sounded familiar.
And then his mother, Mary Robbins, was an actress.
Oh, okay.
And a little cute little tidbit.
Yeah.
They passed away in April of 2011. That's not the cute part.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a little...
It's not cute. That's dark.
A little dark.
But they passed away 12 days apart from one another. It was like they couldn't live without each other.
Seems like.
It's so sweet.
Aww.
I suppose it's not cute. It's
no,
sweet.
it is sweet. Unfortunate for Tim, the Mr. Robbins, for losing both parents in a very quick succession.
In a very quick succession, yeah. And they were just 80 and 78, so they weren't super old either.
Huh.
I mean, compared to my grandmother, who's like 90 now.
Right, still moving around.
Yeah.
My goodness. Huh. All right.
He's also been in 2 films that were selected for the National Film Registry. Can you guess?
Okay, I'm going to throw one out there.
Mm-hmm.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, duh.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
But what's the other one?
The other one is surprising because I think there's a lot of us who don't remember he was in this film even. He was in Top Gun, which I don't think a lot of people... I don't remember it.
No.
And it surprised me when I looked at clips of it and I was like, oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. His code name was Merlin.
Merlin.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know. I'll have to watch for him next time I watch the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I certainly don't recall him. But it's been a long, admittedly, it's been a long, long time since I've seen Top Gun.
It has. I think the last time I saw it was with my mother, like when I was 12 or something, like a long time ago.
Yeah. Boy, should probably watch that again soon.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
We'll wait till spring. It seems like a good spring film because of, the shirtless volleyball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
forgot about that.
Right.
Okay, anyways.
Anyway, just a few more mentions of things that Tim Robbins has been in, just to we always seem to mention a few things.
We're going to touch on things.
I need to mention it just because our previous episode was Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
He was, Mr. Robbins was in one episode of Moonlighting.
He was.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, nice connection.
Nice connection. He was also in... I'm sure everyone remembers Howard the Duck.
Everyone remembers that movie. They should. Because I think it's great.
I don't want to admit that I liked it.
Oh, I loved it. I will gladly admit it. Great film.
Very fun
Top
film.
notch.
A lot of people would disagree and probably going to get some shit for it.
I don't care.
We like Howard the Duck. But he says he only did it for the money.
Okay.
He's giving himself an out.
Good on you.
He was also in Bull Durham, which was often considered his kind of breakout role.
Okay.
Much more reputable than Howard the Duck.
Not as fun, though.
Not as fun. Jacob's Ladder, which is one of my...
That's a great one.
I love that one as a horror film so much. Of course, we mentioned Shawshank Redemption. And speaking of Jack Black, High Fidelity.
Yeah.
I think we've covered Tim Robbins well enough. Chances are we're going to see him in another episode.
Absolutely.
So let's leave him alone and we'll go to someone else. Who's next?
Paul Newman, baby.
Paul Newman.
Yes. The most favorite blue eyes in movie history.
Yeah, rather entrancing.
Beautiful eyes. He's colorblind.
Is he now?
Yeah. It's those blue eyes.
Yeah, they steal all the color away.
Didn't stop him from doing all his own car stunts, though.
He loves cars.
He absolutely loves cars. Did love cars.
A racer even started a racing association, right?
Yeah. Speaking of starting a racing association, he also started his own food company.
Oh, he did.
Newman's Own.
Which is something more people probably know him from these days than his acting. Even.
Yeah, sadly. Usually was like spaghetti sauces and salad dressings.
Yeah.
And it kind of branched into a lot. And over the years, it's been a big charity.
Yeah, incredibly philanthropic. He took no profit from it. Just covered operating costs and then donated the rest.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, super, super admirable.
He's been in a lot of things that I've never seen. Because he's been in things.
He's been in so many things.
1949 he's been acting.
Yeah.
Was acting. But some of the things that I remember him being in is Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Oh, of course.
Cool Hand Luke.
Yes, of course.
Somebody Up There Likes Me. The Long Hot Summer. The Sting. The Towering Inferno.
Towering Inferno.
Yeah. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Undoubtedly so. The Color of Money. The Hustler. Road to Perdition.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Of course, because it's super relevant to Paul Newman, he voiced a character in Cars.
I mean, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think every actor should voice one voice in one movie at some point, like one cartoon type-ish.
Yeah.
Everyone should do a kid's movie. You know, he actually turned down the role of Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry. Yeah. He thought the screenplay was too right-wing.
Right.
So he recommended Clint Eastwood for the role instead.
Yeah, he was very left politically, for sure.
Definitely very left politically.
And speaking of being left politically, did you happen to know that he was discovered to be on the notorious enemies list?
Oh, was he?
That was held by Richard Nixon after the Watergate scandal had been broken.
Richard Nixon.
Yeah. Paul Newman, another one that we'll probably see many times again. Should we leave him alone as well and go on to someone else?
Let's talk about Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, let's.
Some of the things I remember her being in, some of my favorite things was she was in Backdraft, and then she was in the show Weeds for a little while.
Oh, right.
I don't know what season it was, but I know we didn't finish the last.
Yeah, no, I think we fell short like maybe a season or two.
We gotta watch that. And then, of course, The Hateful Eight. I love that movie so much. She did a great job. Do you have some other ones that you remember her from being in?
Well, I also do want to mention, since I didn't cover her character in the plot, and I usually try to hit all the main characters, but our plot was running kind of long on this one. She plays a journalist called Amy Archer.
Yeah.
Phony, huh?
As a $3 bill.
Says who?
Says me, Amy Archer. Why is he an idea man? Because Hudsucker says he is?
And she is sort of the one that's trying to get the scoop on the whole Hudsucker incident, on what's going on there, because all of a sudden there's nobody is made CEO. She kind of goes undercover
she's
as
on to him.
A secretary, even though she's getting the dirt on the guy.
Yeah.
So she's very fast talking, and she's got that kind of the old noiry journalist smooth talk.
She got that down.
Yeah, she did so well.
And just take a look at the mug on this guy. The jutting eyebrows, the simian forehead, the idiotic grin. Why, he has a face only a mother could love.
She, just like a few other people in this film, was in a movie that was selected for preservation by the National Film Registry. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That was her first successful female lead.
Yeah.
Wasn't her first film,
no,
but it was her first successful female lead film, where she was really well known.
She's gone on to lead so many other movies. Rush, really intense emotionally. Single white female. She also was in The Man Who Wasn't There. She was in The Machinist. The Jacket, which was sort of a very closely resembled the idea behind Jacob's Ladder. She was in Existenz. She voiced Tempest in Hercules. So,
love Hercules.
Like you mentioned, everyone voicing somebody in a kids movie.
Yeah.
And another really lesser known film that I really enjoyed, a movie with Rutger Hauer, Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of medievally. This one actually inspired, so I'm deviating here. In one of my role-playing groups, we had, because I do role-playing, in one of my role-playing groups, we were doing a low fantasy game set in a semi-realistic world. And my character was the head of a household. We were warring with another household, and I decided to take a cue from Flesh and Blood and attempt to commit biological warfare in a very similar way as they did in that movie. Anyway.
It sounds thrilling.
You should have been there.
I should have been there.
Oh boy. Okay.
Anyway. Another movie she was in was Margot at the Wedding from 2007.
Oh, okay.
The only reason I bring that up is because she was in that movie with Jack Black and Nicole Kidman. And they ended up actually living in the same house together.
Oh.
During the filming, they wanted to perfect their roles as like a dysfunctional family.
Huh. That would have been interesting.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting situation.
I wonder how often they fought.
I don't know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they had an argument.
You know, that's the second person connected to Jack Black now.
Yeah, he's
Jack
got some
Black is our
connections.
circle.
He's our circle. Huh? That's funny. She actually won the role for Hudsucker Proxy over Winona Ryder and Bridget Fonda.
Oh, no kidding.
And to make another connection, she auditioned for the role of Catwoman in Batman Returns.
Oh, you know, I don't think Winona Ryder would have done the role correctly.
No, I don't think she can speak the way that...
She's got a very slow manner of speaking.
Yeah,
and
not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think it would have fit this movie the way that Jennifer did.
Yeah, she really put that color on that character for sure.
Oh, yeah. She slapped some makeup on that pig.
Sure did. The character was great, and I think it would have been great with other actors in it as well, but I think she did the job.
Yeah, she put the sauce on that hamburger.
I love your metaphors today.
Thank
They're
you.
really great. So there's one more actor I'd like to mention.
Okay.
Because he plays a significant role, although it's small. The actor that narrates our opening, and the character also makes a few significant appearances, very few appearances,
They're
but
small,
significant.
but they're significant, yeah.
In the film. He's an actor named Bill Cobbs, who plays a character called Moses.
Yeah.
So didn't start acting until he was 36.
Okay.
But he's got almost 200 acting credits to his name, which is incredible.
Yeah.
He's been in so many things. His first role was in 1974 in The Taking of Pelham 123 as Man on Platform.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
A big start.
Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere.
Right. So before that, though, in an effort to get into acting and not have to be stuck in another kind of day-to-day job, he did quite a number of other smaller jobs. He was a cab driver for a while. He was an office equipment repairman. He was in toy sales. He just did so many little odd jobs just to support himself while he was pursuing acting, which is some real devotion. So good for him. And he seems to at least have been, happy with what he got out of it. So.
Yeah, I think the only issue with him in this film, not with him,
with the character
is the Coen Brothers actually got a lot of flack from many of their critics for casting him in kind of a cringy, almost kind of racist role where he was not a good look.
It didn't have to be played the way it was, I think.
It didn't. They got a lot of criticism for it.
I expect old Moses knows just about everything. Leastways if it concerns Hudsucker.
Rightfully so, because he was instrumental in the film and he acted wonderfully in this film. It's just the role they gave him was kind of icky.
Yeah. Key and Peele did a sketch that I think was perhaps very much inspired by this character.
Yeah, I think so.
At one point.
Yeah.
But let's kind of leave that where it is in the movie. He did also appear in The Color of Money with Paul Newman. He was in People Under the Stairs.
Yeah, we've mentioned that one before.
In our Basement Chronicle series, right?
Yep.
He was also in The Bodyguard. And of course, Demolition Man.
Oh, well, who could forget Demolition
Yeah.
Man?
Love that movie so much.
He
And
was
then
in Night at the Museum, too, wasn't he?
Night at the Museum, yes.
He was one of the guards.
One of the night guards, yes.
Yes.
And we almost made it through the entire cast without mentioning this. And I was not going to let that happen. So he made appearances in lots of TV roles.
Oh, boy.
Can you see where this is going?
CIS, NCIS.
Not NCIS.
No.
Drop a letter from that.
CSI.
Bingo. He made an appearance in CSI. So there we are.
There's got to be at least one.
We got
everyone.
We got our National Film Registry in here and our CSI mention.
Okay.
So Law and Order, all that stuff. He wasn't in those, but he was in CSI. But it goes in that whole pile of everybody steps through these kind of doors. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. May I mention one more person, Leia?
Please do.
Carter Burwell.
Okay.
Does the name sound familiar?
No.
It would if you read the cast list or the contributing crew list for every Coen Brothers film, because Carter Burwell is the composer for every Coen Brothers film. He's been working with them since Blood Simple on every movie, with the exception of only one movie, Inside Llewellyn Davis.
So a lot like Tim Burton, right? With Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman, yeah, exactly. Yep, just like that. So aside from, of course, working with the Coen Brothers, it's not like he just devotes himself and gives all of his time to the Coen Brothers. He also does music in so many other films. Wayne's World 2,
No,
which,
World.
you know,
Wayne's World.
Pretty good soundtrack
Good
on that one.
soundtrack, yeah.
Fear.
Okay.
The
That was a
Mark Wahlberg thing.
creepy film.
It was. Being John Malkovich.
Okay.
Adaptation, In Bruges, and another Colin Farrell movie, The Banshees of Inisherin.
Okay.
So his credentials go on and on.
Yeah.
He's done so many other things as well.
Good stuff, though. Like
yeah,
a lot of really well-known films.
Yeah, really, his music really always sets the tone of a movie. He
Yeah.
does a really good job with composition. So, well done. I guess now that we've given acclaim to all of these people, let's talk about some acclaim for this movie.
For the film itself?
Yeah.
Well, so you know we can't do this without talking about legs.
Of course, we're circling back to the legs again.
So I found out how to calculate legs
Oh,
now.
you did?
Yes.
No longer mysterious.
I feel dumb because I couldn't find it before, but I've figured it out.
Okay. And I'm too lazy to look it up, so I'm glad you figured it out.
So it kind of depends on the website you're looking at.
Okay.
But the overall general way that they calculate it
All right.
would be dividing the movie's total box office gross
Okay.
by either its highest grossing weekend, or I've also read on some websites that they use the opening weekend gross.
Oh,
the gross
okay.
opening weekend.
All right. So yeah, it could be two different numbers.
Could be two different numbers, two very different numbers.
Yeah, two very different numbers.
So the numbers, which is the website I usually get my gross,
You get your legs.
I get my legs from, and the domestic gross and the box out, worldwide gross and all that stuff. They seem to use their highest grossing weekend.
Okay. All right.
And I feel like that's really what it should be, because if you took the Hudsucker Proxy and you just took their opening weekend against their total
Their domestic
gross,
Yeah.
it would be like 200 something. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
But if you take their highest grossing weekend and use that number, it's 5.98. So I think that's a little bit more
because
in the realm of possible.
The higher the number is typically considered the better the film performed.
The better the film performed. Now, I also feel like we should give a caveat to that, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the film did well.
All right.
Because this film did not do well.
Right.
It was pretty much absent from most movie theaters outside like large metropolitan areas.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that it didn't go wider, because it premiered at Sundance and it was in competition for the Palme d'Or, but it lost to Pulp Fiction. Now,
Which, I mean, duh.
Yeah. I mean, if you're considering the other films that it was competing with at the time of its release, you can see how it pretty easily got overshadowed.
It had a $25 million budget, which was increased to about $40 million by the time all of the production stuff went
Marketing
through.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
It only did almost 105,000 opening weekend.
Oh.
Domestically, it did only 2,816,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking so good
They're
so
not
far.
looking so good. And then worldwide, we did about 12 million on this one.
Didn't even hit its initial budget.
No, it was by all intent and purpose a flop.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Such a good movie, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate. And it's not that it didn't win awards, too. I mean, it absolutely did. Like you said, it almost won the Palme d'Or, but lost to Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
It did win. The production designer's name is Dennis Gassner, and he's the one who kind of won them all of their awards. So he won the 1994 LAFCA Award for Best Production Design.
Okay.
He also won the 2020 Felix Award for Production Design in the year 2015.
Oh, all
which is far past when the movie came out.
Yeah, sure.
The 2020 awards are usually films that they revisit from 2 decades prior. And then they kind of determine if it stood the test of time, basically.
That's kind of a neat way of doing it, sure.
Because some films maybe didn't do so well when they came out, but when you look at it now, you're
With
like,
a
wow,
new
that
perspective.
did a really... I mean, it's still a good film.
Yeah. And it is very poignant that you mentioned that, because even when it was released, it didn't even get really great critical reviews. A specific call out by most reviewers was the production design.
Yeah. A lot of the critics, I think, felt that this wasn't received as well as it could have, because the Coens were trying to do something that was more comedic and mainstream and not what they typically do.
Right.
And so I think a lot of critics kind of pointed to that as being one of their issues.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think was an issue, to be honest.
No, it's great that directors and creatives try different things. I mean, how do you know if you're good at something if you don't try it?
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty good, so.
Yeah.
I did mention David Gassner, just to kind of give you an idea of like all the stuff he's into. He did production design for Field of Dreams, Barton Fink, Bugsy, Waterworld, The Truman Show, or Brother, Where Art Thou, Big Fish,
Right.
Skyfall, and then most recently Blade Runner 2049.
So a lot of really
He does a
notable
lot of production
films.
design.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Huh. That's good to know. A name I'm not familiar with, but one I'm certainly going to keep my eyes open for.
Yeah, me too. Should we talk about a little bit of the inspiration for the film?
Yeah, let's kind of talk about this film in general. In all honesty, I don't have a whole ton about this film in a big general sense.
Okay.
So we may have kind of a shorter episode for our friends here, but let's get into what we got.
All right. So the Coen Brothers are huge fans of Kubrick.
Okay.
So they used the film Dr. Strangelove for inspiration in the storytelling style.
Oh, yeah, I can see.
In the storytelling style for Dr. Strangelove, they use a lot of exaggerated characters, absurd situations. There's a lot of dark comedy in that film. Rapid fire dialogue.
Right.
I mean, like Jennifer Jason
Yeah,
Leigh.
yeah.
Not now, Morris, I'm busy. That's right, I said hammerhead is in a 10-letter word for a smug, bullying, self-important newspaper man.
Visual irony and some social commentary, which this film has just all of those.
It's chock-a-block.
Different things, yeah. So, and the Hudsucker Proxy actually takes direct inspiration from Mr. Deeds Goes to Town from 1936 and His Girl Friday from 1940.
Right, yeah. Jennifer Jason Leigh's character.
Yeah,
got a
so
lot of inspiration.
the rapid fire dialogue and kind of the goofy visual gags were after Hawk's His Girl Friday, which is considered one of the fastest comedies of all time. Director Frank Capra, he did Mr. Deeds Goes to Town.
Okay.
Stars Gary Cooper as a simple-minded man from the heartland who inherits a vast fortune from a distant relative.
Mm-hmm.
And then the film stars Jean Arthur as a reporter who writes scathing profiles of Mr. Deeds while masquerading him as an innocent small-town girl. So she's pretending to be an innocent small-town girl, but she's so just like Jennifer Jason Leigh's
very
character.
obvious where that inspiration came from.
Yeah, and then the movie It's a Wonderful Life is also a Frank Capra film. They used that in structuring the Hudsucker Proxy's narrative.
Okay.
Beginning with the omniscient narrator informing us of a suicidal protagonist's intentions and then going back in time to show how he got there in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, that whole circle thing.
Yep, those circles.
Yeah.
They abound.
Come midnight, it's gonna be 1959. A whole nother feeling. The new year. The future.
So I think that Frank Capra had a lot of influence in this film for the Coen Brothers.
So speaking of Frank, we've got another famous Frank that provided a little bit of inspiration for us here. A little Frank Lloyd Wright.
Little Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah. Of course, it's very obvious what he inspired because if you say Frank Lloyd Wright, you think of architecture. Mm-hmm. A lot of his design style and influence was used to kind of influence the design of the buildings, the internal structure, as well as architecture and design by another fellow named Albert Speer.
Okay.
Who did a lot of design for the movie Brazil, where long, tall buildings and rooms and spaces, kind of fascist architecture is kind of what he was very well known for.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of Frankie. A second Frank.
Extra Frank.
Yeah, get some extra Franks.
Who doesn't like a good Frank?
It's a BOGO Frank sale.
Yeah, all right. Anything else on inspiration?
So I got one other thing for inspiration, kind of directly inspiring one of the major events of the film, kind of the thing that kickstarts the whole business.
Mm-hmm.
So in the early 70s, there was a company that was helmed by Eli Black.
Okay.
They were very, very well known for dealing with bananas. Bananas. He had gotten himself in an effort to try to make the company profitable. He got himself involved in a little bit of scandal, under the table dealings with banana plantations in Honduras, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he couldn't deal with the whole fact that he was this deep into the pocket of this whole situation. Being unable to cope with all of that reality, he threw himself out of the 44th floor.
44. Not counting the mezzanine.
Of his office building.
Of the Pan Am building in New York City.
Which Mr. Hudsucker went out the 44th floor of the Hudsucker building. And when he died, they'd found a note and everything revealing that what the whole scandal was and all of that business. That was the direct inspiration for what happened with Mr. Hudsucker, at least.
Yeah, he wasn't even having issues just with his banana plantations. Apparently he had cattle that he was in charge of too, and the feed for the cattle was getting too expensive. So he was going through shit with that. And then what kind of happened was that he was bribing the Hondurans to cheapen the bananas.
Yeah, for a tax break.
Yeah.
Man, bananas and cows.
Bananas and cows. The only difference between this story and Hudsucker's story is that he was not doing so great.
Right, whereas Hudsucker was on top of the world.
Hudsucker was on top of the world. So
Yeah.
little difference in the two stories, but it is a direct relation between the two for sure.
Maybe the man was unhappy.
He didn't look unhappy. He didn't look rich.
So I know we talked about the in with the new, out with the old.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't have a lot on that one this time, but I do have like a small, like little, it's not necessarily new, but like kind of new.
Just a little kind of,
Yeah.
Hey, here's a little something.
A little something, yeah. It's not really reinventing anything new.
Congratulations, kid. You've outdone yourself. You reinvented the wheel.
But the set creation was sort of unique in that the buildings, so they built all of the buildings as models, but they were like giant models.
Okay.
He built 27 craftsmen spent 3 months building 50s New York skylines, and they constructed 14 skyscrapers.
Wow.
They kind of delved into the skyline of the 40s in New York after the movie Citizen Kane, and they were built horizontally.
Oh.
You wouldn't think that just by watching the film.
Yeah.
But they built them horizontally with the street vertically just to like simulate looking like down from a really high vantage point.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it works better that way.
Yeah.
It's easier to film
Yeah, you
that.
don't have to like stretch a camera way up high and look down and all of that. It's easier to get to the perspective horizontally rather than
so
vertically.
unique, a little unique
Yeah.
in that they're and when you see pictures, it's really cool because it's like a whole skyline, but they're all built. They're all
lying down.
Lying down. Yeah.
Well, speaking of vertical, this film deals a lot with verticality. Obviously, the buildings are very tall.
Yeah.
And Norville goes from the bottom of the building to the top.
To the top.
Of the building to kind of the bottom again.
Yeah.
Right? And Mr. Hudsucker
Definitely goes to the bottom.
goes from the top to the bottom.
Say, buddy, what takes 50 years to get up to the top floor and 30 seconds to get down? Wearing Hudsucker.
And even the value of the company
stocks.
keeps going up and down, up and down. So
elevators going up and down.
yeah, elevators up and down.
Hiya, buddy. My name's Buzz. I got the fuzz. I make the elevator do what she does.
A lot of concepts of verticality.
Verticality in this film, yeah.
So aside from the straight vertical line and horizontal line when we're talking about the building models, this film also deals with, we've mentioned about a million times already, circles, right?
Yeah.
So circles appear and reappear from the Hudsucker clock. You had called that out when we were talking about the plot, right? The hula hoop, of course, a big one.
The frisbee.
The frisbee at the end, yes, the frisbee is quote unquote invented.
Yeah.
The coffee cup ring that you had mentioned also when I was going through the plot.
Even the circular motion of the plot.
Circular motion of the plot.
Yeah.
The roundabout of the connection between Hudsucker and Norville.
Going up and coming down.
There's even a conversation that Norville has with Amy at one point, and they're talking about karma.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's the circular nature of karma.
Coming back around, yeah.
It's what your beatnik friends call karma.
Karma.
The great circle of life, death, and rebirth.
There's even perhaps really the only real spoiler that we could encounter here.
Hold off.
We haven't had an episode without a spoiler section yet, so
We have a mini one at the end.
yeah, let's.
Okay.
There's one other circle we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But yeah, circles.
So the producer for this film is Joel Silver. We had talked about Joel Silver before.
Uh-huh.
And he was a big fan of the Coens' previous films.
Okay.
He acquired the script for his production company, Silver Pictures, and he pitched it at Warner Brothers. And Silver, they ended up getting it. Like, they ended up taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Silver allowed the Coens complete artistic control, which is
pretty outstanding.
Totally not in his nature.
Yeah.
He is a control freak.
And for the
from
fact
what
that
I read.
This is one of their early films, too.
Yep. So he had a lot of faith in them to do what they needed to do for this one. The only things that Joel Silver really wanted them to do, and they still didn't do it, they wanted Tom Cruise to star as Norville Barnes.
Okay.
Which they were in Top Gun together. So
Yeah,
that's
that's- yeah,
an interesting connection. But the Coens insisted on Tim Robbins, so
Yeah.
that wasn't going to happen. And then Silver suggested they release the film in black and white.
Oh.
Clearly that didn't happen either.
I think that would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. I think at the beginning of the film it's in black and white.
No, it's color.
No, it's
still.
color still? Yeah. Okay, well, he tried to get that to happen and it didn't happen either because the Coens are pretty stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, when they get set on something, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. And then we were talking about the circle idea.
Yeah.
And the hula hoop.
Mm-hmm.
when they were doing this film and they chose that, they wanted something that seemed ridiculous without any context.
Right.
So a circle seems ridiculous without context.
For a grand idea.
But he also wanted something that the audience would know what it is. Like we all knew what he's talking about, a hula hoop.
Yeah, hula hoop.
And everybody loves a hula hoop.
Right.
Well, I mean, most people love a hula hoop. Yeah. And we know how successful the toy was.
I am not someone who can perform well with a hula hoop.
We need hips to do it.
Yeah, and I am very not hippie.
But yeah, it was really, they used that toy to kind of just drive home the ridiculousness of that.
Yeah.
That concept, but knowing all the whole time that this was going to be very successful. That was their downfall.
I feel like it is worth mentioning just really briefly. This is not the actual way that the hula hoop was invented. They just needed to use it as a proxy to kind of build the whole plot around.
Yeah. I also had mentioned about those buildings and the, out with the old, in with the new segment.
Indeed.
The buildings were actually created by miniature effects supervisor Mark Stetson. And at the end of the production, he was asked if he wanted to buy them for $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think was, well, that's going to be a major storage issue. I can't buy those.
Giant buildings.
Giant buildings, huge storage issues. So he said no. And then a few months later, he was bidding against someone else for those buildings again for the movie The Shadow. The other show that won the buildings was Baby's Day Out.
Oh.
They're the ones who ended up with the building. So he didn't even get to have access to his own buildings. And then it happened again for the movie Fifth Element and Godzilla. So every time he wanted to get them back, he couldn't use them again. He kept thinking, well, I built them.
They're my damn buildings.
But he didn't buy them.
No, so they're not his damn buildings.
So I think he was really wishing that he had just figured out how to store them.
Yeah, but $10,000 seems like a lot for buildings.
You haven't seen the pictures then.
No,
these buildings are great.
If only he had the storage.
If only he had the storage. One more little cameo.
All right.
That I don't think you or I picked up on, but after I read it, I was like, oh yeah, totally. The Coen Brothers regularly have John Goodman in a few of their things. He was actually the newsreel announcer. So he's listed, but he's not listed as John Goodman. He's listed in the credits as Carl Munt.
Which
do you remember who Carl Munt is?
Yeah, from another movie.
Mm-hmm. He's his character's alter ego in Barton Fink.
Yep. Yeah, now that you mention it, I didn't even recognize it when I was watching the movie. When you hear the newscaster, you can think to yourself, wow, that voice really sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So I didn't recognize it at first, but now that you mention it, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is John Goodman. Yes, without a doubt.
Barnes is the brainy inventor of America's craziest craze, the hula hoop.
Well, do you have any other things to add to this fantabulous movie?
The last thing I got is...
the last thing before our spoilers section?
Really just a spoiler, that's all I got. So,
okay.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
I have a little spoiler too, so let's move on to our spoiler
all right,
section.
So to everybody who wants to get out of here, you don't need to go through the window.
Please don't go through the window.
You can go right through the door.
It's not a very far fall though. It's only one story.
Yeah, we have one story and a basement. But you can't really fall from the basement.
Unless you fall down the stairs.
Maybe our basement in October.
Anyways, don't go through the window.
Yeah, don't go through the window. Just go through the doors. Or just go to the next room even.
Yeah. Plug your ears.
You don't need to go outside. It's cold out there.
Unless you want to be spoiled.
Unless you want to be spoiled, which really, this is not a dangerous spoiler. But
mine is super dangerous. You could cut your hand off with this spoiler.
So your spoiler has knives.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, well mine is much less.
Okay.
Knivey. Anyway, so here's your chance to get out for spoilers. 44, 43, 42.
Okay.
Not that way, through the door!
Sir, it'll take 3 hours to retype the Bumstead contract.
Where are you going?
Get
out of here! Stop that!
Okay, so here's what I got for a spoiler.
Okay.
When Norville throws himself from the Hudsucker building.
Yeah. This is the last circle.
The last circle.
Concept.
Time is stopped because magic.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hudsucker appears as an angel.
This is like a cherub.
Floating down. And atop his head is a rotating halo, the final circle.
The final circle. Final circle. No? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Good though. I like it.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Your spoiler. Go.
My spoiler. Okay. So the Coen Brothers like to write their stories from start to finish without skipping ahead. So they don't like to come up with the ending.
Okay.
And then right to the ending. Or they don't like to figure out how the movie is going to go by knowing how they want it to end. They like to figure out how they're going to make it end by starting at the beginning.
So they let the movie get to its own end.
They let the movie get to its own end. That's their writing style.
All right.
But it oftentimes it paints them in a box.
Yeah.
And which is what they did with this movie.
Oh, boy.
So they did that with this movie because they started off with Norval Barnes at the top of the building.
Right.
Getting ready to.
Which is technically the end.
But they needed to figure out how they were going to get him there.
Right.
And how they were going to save him because they didn't know he was going to die.
Right.
It sounds silly, but that they had to figure out how they were going to get to the end and have him survive. So that's when they came up with, or quote unquote, resorted to, their quotes. They resorted to stopping time to save his life.
Right.
So the magic that happens is literally because they had no idea how they were going to get him to not die.
So they were writing and trying to figure it out, and they finally just said, fuck it, magic.
Strictly speaking, I'm never supposed to do this. But have you got a better idea?
I mean, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
The mark of every good storyteller.
Yeah, magic.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
that's all I got for spoilers
fair.
then.
Well, Leia, I think this is it.
Yeah, this is it. I love this movie.
It is a very fun movie.
I can't state enough how much I like this movie because I just feel like it doesn't get the credit it deserves.
I hope that we've somehow magically convinced some more people to go and check this movie out. It should
Maybe they'll circle back around to it.
Circle back around. Yes, I hope so. So that's, I think we're done.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you guys can come back in now.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we've almost forgot.
Ugh.
Boy, we're doing that a lot more and more recently.
Yeah.
Like we have something against people who haven't watched a movie we're talking about or something. We don't really.
No, that's why we're here.
That's right. Trying to give people the reason to go watch these movies.
All right, they've shuffled back in.
All right,
so let's wrap this up.
All right. Leia, we did supply some hoops for people when they came in. So anybody who has your MTL branded hula hoops, just keep them. We don't want them back.
Yeah.
We're done with those. Those are for you.
Well, yes. Like a little nifty gifty.
Nifty gifty. They're a storage issue for us.
Yeah.
And they're not as big as those model buildings. So take those with you, clean up your trash and all that. Go ahead and check out the Movie Theater Lobby at themovietheaterlobby.com. Email the show at themovietheaterlobby@gmail.com. Check out the show on social media. We have Facebook and YouTube as the Movie Theater Lobby, on Instagram and Blue Sky because they're really particular on character count when it comes to handles. Yeah. The Movie Lobby. Mm-hmm. One word.
Yeah, we're pretty active on Blue Sky.
Yeah, we actually are pretty active on Blue Sky. We try to be at least.
Yeah.
Long work hours make that difficult, but we try. So check out the show there. If you really want to come find me, you can. Brandon McLeavy. I am on a few other socials. I know we've mentioned them in the past, Facebook and Instagram. I don't really frequent those too much. My own personal account is much more active on Blue Sky, so find me at BrandMC on Blue Sky. And Leia, where can our listeners and movie lovers find you?
Our lobbyists? Just kidding.
Oh, bringing it back around. Metalheads.
Metalheads. You can find me, Leia McLeavy, at LM Nerdroom on all the previously mentioned socials. Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
And at lmnerdroom@gmail.com if you want to contact me directly.
Radio. Fantastic. And as always, a thank you to all the people who listen to us and give us their time and attention. And Leia, how many times do I have to say it? Thank you so much.
You have to say it every time.
I do.
Thank you.
And not that I have to, I want to.
Me too.
Thank you, Leia. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. And that's just potatoes, Smitty. Here comes the gravy. The chump really likes me. A Muncie girl.
Better off falling for a rattlesnake.
I'm telling you, this guy's just a patsy, and I'm gonna find out what for.